What's up there, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Today we're making some nettle soup. Let's dig in. Welcome to Fanfare for the Conscious. My name's Rick. This is Sustainable City Steading. Today we're going to be making some delicious nettle soup. Let's head over to the kitchen and have a look. So here are the ingredients that we're going to be using for our nettle soup today. Over here we've got a little bit of the wild garlic that was left over from my foraging the other day. 50 grams of that there. 2 small red onions, you could use white onions or 1 large one if you prefer. 4 medium-sized carrots. 100 grams of radishes, freshly picked out of the garden mere moments ago. I think they're going to be delicious. And we've got about 400 grams of potatoes. Unfortunately not out of my garden, ours aren't quite ready yet, these are just baby new potatoes. 1 lemon, as mentioned previously, always worth adding a bit of acidity to your food, really helps to bring a lot of the flavours together. And then we have the star of the show, 300 grams of nettles. Now in foraging terms that's probably about half a carrier bag's worth. And then the extras over here, we've got some butter, some plain flour that we're going to be using to make a roux. Got some veg stock cubes, salt and pepper, bay leaves, some celery seed and some olive oil. So step 1 is to defang these nettles. They are still fresh at the minute, so they can still give quite a sting. So what I'm actually just going to do, I'll bring them over here and we're just going to blanch them. So we've got some boiling water in here. I'm going to take the nettles, just pop them in the top there like that. Now, it does look like there's an awful lot in here, but very much like spinach, it will just start to wilt down quite quickly. We're just going to start off with a handful, get them in there. I'm going to boil that for 2 minutes. Once they're all in there, they've all boiled down, after 2 minutes we'll get them straight into some cold water just to shock them a little bit, and that should take the sting out and make them a little bit easier to handle. Now while those nettles are blanching, I'm just going to take my radishes, pop them in a little casserole dish. I'm actually going to do these roasted to add a little bit extra flavour. And then we've got them in there, just a little drizzle of olive oil, some salt and pepper, and then just bang them in the oven and wait until they start to brown and get nice and crispy. So now after 2 minutes, you can turn the heat off. And your nettles should be well and truly safe. Obviously, see, I'm handling these now with my hands and they are not stinging at all. And we've got some nice cold water. Ice water is better. Don't have any ice cubes, unfortunately. So I'm just going to make do with what I can. And if you've got tongs, brilliant. If not, a couple of forks, or a fork and a spoon, and just drop your nettles into that nice cold water. After this, you want to drain the nettles through a colander, and then quickly by hand just go stripping as many of the leaves off as possible, trying to leave as many of the stalks behind as you possibly can. And now it's time to peel and chop all the remaining veggies and the wild garlic. Once you've got those veggies chopped, you're going to take your soup saucepan. This is where you're going to be making the main soup. A nice drizzle of olive oil. And we're going to take our red onions, put those in there. And we're going to take our wild garlic, put that in there as well. Turn that heat right down and then just saute them for 2 minutes. since I don't have any fresh celery, I'm also going to add half a teaspoon of celery seed. So I'll turn the heat right down now on the onions, the wild garlic and the celery seed, and I'm actually going to take that off the heat in a minute while I prepare a roux. The roux is 50-50 butter and flour. And the first thing I'm going to do is going to melt some butter in there. You can use bacon fat or lard or oil if you really want to, depending on the level of flavourings that you want. The main job of the roux is just to add a little bit of thickness to the soup. It's done a very low heat now. I'm just going to try and cook the flavour out of the flour. And then to the roux, we're going to add 1 pint of veg stock and mix it in nice and slowly so that we don't get any lumps. And once you've mixed in all of that veg stock, you should be left with something that looks a little bit like this. And now that the roux is ready, we can get the veggies back on. To that mixture of onions, celery seeds and wild garlic. See there, to the light for you. We're going to add our potatoes. They have been soaking in some water. I'm just going to tip that water in there with it as well. And I'm also going to put in the carrots at this stage as well. We're going to bring that up to the boil and let it simmer for about 10 minutes until those carrots and the potatoes just start to go soft. And at this point I'm actually just going to add a squeeze of lemon juice. And there's the other half. I'm also going to add a bay leaf and a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, so that's now been simmering for about 5 minutes. And the last thing that we need to add, besides the roux, is going to be the nettles. So here we have my tub of blanched nettles. I'm just going to get those right in there. Last thing we need to do before we serve up is add the roux. I'm just going to put a little bit in there first. Mix that in. And the function of the roux is just to thicken it up a little bit, because this isn't going to be a creamed soup, as you'll see in a lot of the recipes out there. This is going to be a chunky vegetable soup. Just get that in there. And we'll just leave that to simmer until all the veg is nice and tender. Those potatoes and those carrots are starting to go soft. And then we'll dish it up. And in the meantime, just checking on those radishes. They're looking very nice, a little bit caramelised. Fantastic. We're going to take those and put them to one side. Then we have our finished soup. And we're just going to take those roasted radishes and sprinkle them on the top. And just to be a little bit fancy, garnish it with a little sprig of radish greens. And I guess now to the most important question: how does it taste? Let's see. It's good. It's definitely good. The nettles are kind of a bit of a combination between cabbage and spinach, would be my best way of describing it. The texture's quite cabbagey and there's a slight hint, it's a bit milder perhaps, when it wilts down the same way spinach does. It's really quite good. I'll put my recipe down in the description for you. One quick note, I did actually end up doubling the amount of roux that I used because the sauce was a little bit thin at the end. So I did actually do another little batch of roux with another tablespoon of butter and another tablespoon of flour. Have a go for yourselves. Just take this as inspiration. I really just sort of winged it with this recipe. I had a quick look online to get some inspiration, and then had to dig around in the fridge to see what we had available, and a dig around in the garden, quite literally,
to get those radishes. It's actually really good. There's no sting at all. Blanching it for 2 minutes completely takes away any semblance of what you would traditionally associate with nettles. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Looking forward to seeing you all next time. Take care, guys.